So the time is finally here. Z Fold 4 has been in the lab for, at this point, almost 3 months. I'm just a little bit behind, as y'all can tell. But it is finally time for the Z Fold 4 full review. Now, with this device being a foldable, there's a lot here. And the last thing I want to do is, gloss over something or forget something. So what I'm going to do is actually split this review into two parts. So you're going to get part one this week, and then next week, you'll get part two. So we're going to go ahead and do a two-parter for this one. Let's go ahead and kick things off with part one. This is Z Fold 4 full review. So for part one, we're going to break up into a few categories. So for part one, we're going to go ahead and cover the design, the displays, and we're going to go ahead and talk software. So quite a heavy, heavy hitting part one. So let's go ahead and kick things off and start with design. So design when it comes to Z Fold 4. Now, this is going to be totally subjective, obviously, as most things when it comes to smartphones are. So with the Z Fold 4, they honestly didn't change too much about the general design. They added a little bit of width on this cover display, which we're going to talk more about the cover display once we get to the display area of the review, of course. But in terms of design, they honestly didn't change too much from an outward appearance standpoint. Again, the device is a little bit shorter and wider. Camera bar is honestly about the exact same as Z Fold 3, so no real changes there. Buttons on the side, obviously that's exactly the same. If you're curious about this case, it is the later case for the Z Fold 4. If you want me to do a full review on that, I definitely can. I just kind of skipped over it. I was too excited about the case and didn't shoot a video. But if you want to hear more about it, definitely let me know in the comment section. But later case right here, absolutely dope case. That's the inside display right there. So like I said, a little bit shorter and wider, which is definitely much appreciated. Now, in terms of the things that kind of matter for a foldable in terms of design, things like the hinge and, things like that, right? So the hinge is definitely different. And when I say it's different, the reason why is because with the Fold 3, sometimes I would feel like that foldable would open a little bit too easily. Whereas with Fold 4, if you're not rocking a case, when you're rocking a case, it doesn't matter. You don't really notice it. But when you're actually not rocking a case, had to throw the phone on do not disturb. When you're not rocking a case, it is a little bit harder to open. Now, obviously, I'm rocking a later case, so no problem at all. But it's a little bit more. I would probably say the word is like resistive to opening. Like the magnets are a little bit stronger. Also, I'm gonna hold this up to the mic, and I want you guys to tell me if y'all can hear this. There's kind of like a crisp, almost like a sweep when you're opening the Fold 4. Now, that was something that I thought would go away, as I open the device more, that type of thing. But it doesn't seem to have gone away. Now, Samsung, if I'm not mistaken, have gone on record and stated that that sound that you're hearing when you're opening it is not like the display cracking or anything like that. It's actually the brushes in the hinge kind of sweeping up any dirt and debris that might be locked inside that hinge. So from their standpoint, it's working as intended. It was just something a little weird that didn't happen with my Fold 3, so I was just, like I said, kind of curious about that. But either way, I still think the Fold is an absolutely, premium, well-built, great build quality, can hang there with the best of them in terms of foldables on the market, right? Not really too much to say because, again, not a lot changed between this and Fold 3. So let's go ahead and move on to displays because that's where we did get a little bit of change. So starting with the inside display because that's the one that honestly didn't change, nearly as much. Like I said, it is a little bit shorter and a little bit wider. Now, where that kind of benefits you and to some degree is when you're watching, full screen content. So like YouTube, for example, if you take it over to YouTube, I'll just throw up, let's see, we'll throw up the homie LaShawn's stream. So if I maximize this versus Fold 3, your black bars at the top and bottom are actually going to be a little bit smaller. So you're actually going to get more content, landscape versus you could before when it was an orientation. Now, anyone that uses a Fold, when they do watch full screen content, they obviously just change into this orientation. But just to say that that's honestly the only place that I noticed, an actual difference in terms of the display being shorter and wider, being beneficial. Other than that, like I said, it's been perfectly fine. When you're split screening apps, side by side here, I'll go back to YouTube and then we'll do Twitter. When you're split screening apps, it still honestly looks the exact same to me. I wouldn't mind them going a little bit wider in this regard. But again, if I'm doing split screen, I'm rotating my device and I'm getting two full screen apps that way. So obviously, no issues there. That's all I can really say about the displays in terms of like how they've changed. Now, brightness, obviously, because brightness gets better pretty much every year anyway. Brightness is better on both the front cover display and on the inside display. With Fold 3, it wasn't terribly difficult to see outside, in direct lighting. But it definitely wasn't as visible as Fold 4. Fold 4, I can use this 100% out in the bright Florida sun with absolutely no issues whatsoever. One more thing I want to make note of on the display before we talk about, the kind of elephant in the room, which is the narrow front cover, because a lot of people have issues with that, and I have kind of an interesting perspective on that. But anyway, last thing, crease. Now, crease, in my opinion, rotate, sir. Oh, my bad, guys. Hold on. There we go. Um, Crease. We're gonna go ahead and talk about the crease. So with the crease in normal, like right now, how you guys are looking at this head on, you honestly don't notice the crease all that much. And in normal indoor lighting, when you're gonna use this the most, you honestly do not notice the crease. But the minute the light, and I'll kind of demonstrate what I see when I'm outdoors, because this happens to me outdoors all the time. Now, when I'm outdoors, that sunlight hits it and it looks just like that. And as y'all can see, it honestly just doesn't look all that great. Now, this is not a deal breaker by any means or any stretch of the imagination. I've showed people my Fold out in public in the bright sun and they didn't even say anything about the crease. So in all honesty, it's honestly not a deal breaker. I'm just to the point now where I'm seeing the competition starting to do more to kind of mitigate the crease. Now, that is at the cost of water resistance, which I do like having water resistance just for the peace of mind that I can say, take pictures of my kids in the pool, or I can take it to the beach and not have any issues. Yes, I've done both of those with the Fold 4 and have dropped the Fold 4 in water and have not had any issues. So like I said, I am happy that the water resistance is there, but I would love to see Samsung do something a little bit more about that crease, because it is pretty pronounced when that sunlight hits it in the right light, and it can kind of make the screen look a little plasticky and cheap, in my opinion. But either way, like I said, from normal head on, like right now, you can't even see the actual crease itself. So like I said, good stuff on that, but that bright sunlight, yeah, you definitely notice that. Let's go ahead and switch gears and talk about that external cover display, because this is kind of the area where I see a lot of people, the Fold 4 is either going to be a good device for them, or it's a device that they just shouldn't even look at all. So what a lot of people kind of feel, you have two camps, right? You have camp A, where when it comes to the front cover screen, for them it's 100%, too narrow. Like the cover display is just too narrow. When they're trying to type on it, they're running into issues, they're having typos, all that other good stuff, right? And then you have the people that are in camp B who appreciate having a compact and one-handed, user experience on the front cover, and then when they open it, having a two-handed experience on the inside. Me, I'm kind of in the middle of that. I definitely see the appeal of having a wider front screen after using something like the Vivo X Fold and seeing some of the other foldables. But at the same time, I also understand what Samsung is trying to do here. With other foldables, they're just trying to give you a slab style experience on that front cover, which, let's be real, most of us with normal hands, with that slab, you're using that with two hands. Like my S22 Ultra is a device I tend to use with, two hands, 14 Pro Max, two hands. Pixel 7 Pro, you kind of end up defaulting with two hands. Now, if you're just scrolling social media, obviously you can just use one hand, but I'm saying for typing specifically, right? So what Samsung is trying to do here, and I've explained this previously, they're trying to give you two mobile experiences. They're trying to give you the one mobile experience where you're out and about, you only have one free hand. This whole screen is accessible with one hand. Whether I want to swipe from the bottom and get to the notification shade, whether I want to, type here with one hand, the cow goes moo, whether I want to go one hand and type there, whether I'm scrolling, say, social media or whatever the case may be. As Floss would say, this is a family show. But yeah, whether I want to scroll social media or whatever the case may be, this is a true one-handed experience. And in a world where phones are getting so much more larger, screens are getting bigger, all of that good stuff, it's refreshing to see a manufacturer take a one-handed experience and give you that when you need it. And then when you're somewhere where, say for example, you have the extra hand, or you're back at the house and you're getting ready to watch some content, now you open it and you got a two-handed user experience. That is what Samsung is going for. So with a lot of people saying that the screen is too narrow, I can't type with two hands on it, the screen wasn't made for you to type with two hands. This screen was designed for you to use one hand. So I hate to go Apple with the whole you're holding it wrong or you're using it wrong, but I can't complain about not being able to use a phone how I want to use it when the manufacturer didn't design the phone to be used in that way. It's almost like people, complaining or crying about the fact that the Pixel 7 Pro wasn't the best rated phone for gaming. Well, Google didn't design Pixel 7 Pro to be the ultimate gaming phone. If I want a phone that can do great gaming, I'm going to go buy a gaming phone. If I want a foldable that gives me a two-handed experience on the front cover, I'm going to go buy one of those. But if I want a one-handed experience, I'm going to buy this. So it ends up being totally subjective and dependent on what specifically you as a consumer are looking for. Me, I'm somebody who can appreciate both implementations. I like the fact that I can use this with one hand and reach everything and get to everything, right? Whereas like on the Vivo X Fold, if I'm not just, doing the mindless scroll of social media, well, then that's something I'm going to be using two hands or I'm going to be swiping, right? So like I said, I like the implementation that Samsung is taking here, where they're saying you get a one-handed compact user experience on the front screen when you need it. Then when you have that extra hand or you want to do something, a little bit more productivity focused, well, then go ahead and open that bad boy up and you got an 8-inch screen on the inside, right? Absolutely love that. I also love the fact that this front cover screen is a totally different, in the way I think about it, it's a totally different phone than when I open the phone up, right? So with most foldables, the way that they do their software, your or your main screen inside is literally just an extension of the cover screen. I personally don't like that. I like to have two different experiences for each screen. So like take for example, it won't really shine through on this screen, but on this screen. So here I have my weather forecast, I have my basketball scores, and I have my calendar here, right? All of that on one screen. I like it on one screen, right? Now when I close the device, on any other any other foldable, that would have just been a crammed extension of here, or it would have split into another page. But here, I can set it up for exactly what I want. So I start off on my home screen, I can swipe to the right, I got all my scores. I can swipe to the left, I got my calendar and weather. I like having those interactions separate, be different, because I use the phone differently depending on which screen I'm using. I'm going to use this inside screen differently than I'm going to use the external cover screen here. There are certain apps that I won't even run on the cover screen that I want front and center on my home screen when the device is open. So I like having that distinction, and Samsung gives you the option to do both. So if you want it, the way that the other foldables have it, you can set it up that way. But if you like it how I like it, you can set it up that way. Choice is always going to be king in my opinion. So those are the only real things that I can call out in terms of, the design, the displays. Let's go ahead and move over to software, which I think is where the Fold really shines, especially when you're looking at, other foldables on the market, right? So first thing I'm going to do is obviously take it into the taskbar. Having this taskbar here, what it does is it kind of at least forces you to try multitasking, whereas on previous folds, there was no real reason or indication to really try to multitask. Like, yeah, you had your little pull bar here, which obviously you have that, right? But there was nothing front and center in your face to really make you say, let me try to multitask. And I think having a taskbar here, which this is an Android 12L feature, not necessarily a Samsung feature, but having this taskbar here at least forces you to try some level of multitasking. Whether you want to click and create a multitasking split screen like that, where you got the top and bottom, which most foldables can't even do. I think only the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 and the Z Fold can actually do top and bottom multitasking like this, which when you're watching a YouTube video, and let me just mute this because I know we get ignorant on the open mic night sometimes. But anyway, if you have your YouTube going, this is how you want to watch YouTube. You want to watch it across the top. You don't want to watch it, you know what I'm saying, in this orientation where you just got a ton of wasted space. Now for a live stream, it's a little bit different because you can obviously pull up the chat and you can be, reading your chat and doing that. Or you can turn it in this orientation and you got, a nice little wider field of view. So that's always good. Versatility is always good. But when you're just watching a normal YouTube video that doesn't have a live, chat section or whatever, no one wants to watch YouTube like this. It just looks bad in my opinion. So all foldables should be able to split their screens and be able to do that. Samsung has always been a pioneer and a leader when it comes to productivity and multitasking. And honestly, no device shows that more than the Galaxy Z Fold. You can also take it to another level. I'm trying to see where I have it. I can't run it, but I do run 3 apps at a time. Let me go ahead and pull up an instance of it. So let's say we got Twitter over here. And then, no, I don't want to click on that ad. Let me drop that there. And then let's say I want to bring up Reddit as well. And I can, adjust these to any height, can still, pull out, crop it in full. You can still do all of that. So you got your Reddit here, you got your Twitter there, so you can keep up on that. I've even had times where I was keeping up with, live streams from the friends and things like that. And I'm literally got a basketball game or something going on the side. So just having, that level of flexibility and that level of control over what you're doing, how many things at a time you're doing, just takes Samsung, in my opinion, in a whole nother direction, in a whole other league. And then the last thing I want to cover before we go ahead and wrap up part 1 in terms of software has to be the software performance. A lot of people look at the Galaxy S series as like the kind of creme de la creme of Samsung performance. And I'm here to tell you that's no longer the case. That is no longer true. There is no, and I mean no, better performing Samsung device in terms of software than the Galaxy Z Fold 4. Animations, absolutely top notch. Transitions, absolutely top notch. And you've probably been able to see a couple. Look at that animation when the taskbar shrinks down to load up the app. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Even launching apps, let's say we launched a weather app and going back home, everything is buttery smooth. Like this is the closest that Samsung's ever been in terms of software performance to say like Google or Motorola or Xiaomi or other manufacturers. This is really good. This is obviously One UI 5 and there was some improvements there, but the Fold 4 always ran, Android better than my S22 Ultra. That's been a fact. And even others who I know have had both devices are saying the same exact thing. So Samsung, whatever y'all are doing when it comes to y'all software for y'all foldables, you got to bring that over to your slab style phones as well. Because even on One UI 5, the S22 Ultra, while it's better, it is still not where it should be. Point blank, period. So with that, I want to go ahead and wrap up part 1 of the Galaxy Z Fold 4 full review. Definitely stay posted to the channel for next week for part 2, where we're going to go ahead and talk versatility. Yes, I had to create a whole new section just for this device. We're going to talk versatility, we're going to talk battery, and then we're going to finish up with camera. So if you don't want to miss that, hit that like and that subscribe button down there. That way you don't. Thanks so much as always for watching. This is Ike's Tech Talk. I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.